CAGED system. The CAGED system is so powerful, so versatile. It's almost like magic when people finally discover what the actual purpose of the system is for. The problem is that so many people completely misunderstand it. So many people. They think that the CAGED system is about this one very specific thing, which it is not, which I'm going to explain to you in this video, when in fact the CAGED system is for something else entirely. This is what the CAGED system is for. It is not for this, but so many people think it is. And that's what this video is about. The pro guitar players, all the best guitar players, they live here. This is where the magic is. This is where the beautiful music takes place. Those guitar players where every note that they play just seems to just send chills down your spine. Everything that they play is just so perfect. And you are like, how do they do that? How are they playing that beautiful music so perfectly? They live here. That's where they're at. The CAGED system is not the only way to get there, but the CAGED system's intention is to get you there. So it's one of the ways to get you there. The CAGED system is not a system of scale patterns. All right, that's not what it's about. The CAGED system is not about breaking the fretboard up into 5 positions. It is not C position, A position, G position, E position, D position. That is not the CAGED system. That's the big misconception. All that is you're just breaking up the diatonic scale via the 5 patterns approach. You can break that diatonic scale up into 3 patterns. You can break the diatonic scale up into 5 patterns. You can break that diatonic scale up into 7 patterns. There's other ways to do it too. Those are just 3 of the common ways to do it. The thing is that people, they misunderstand the CAGED system for the 5 patterns approach to visualizing the diatonic scale. And that is not what the CAGED system's about. All you're doing there is you're living here. You're stuck here. I call this layer 1. This is the diatonic scale. This is where you learn to play in key. It's great to be there. It takes years to get there for many people. I know for myself, just to internalize how to get there, it took me several years, I don't know how many years, a couple years. But that's the minor leagues, man. The major leagues is out here. This is where the pros live. There's this whole other world out there. That's what the CAGED system is for. Hey guys, Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. Today's video, I want to first explain to you what the CAGED system is not and where the big misconception comes from, and then I want to explain to you what it actually is and where all of the magic lies at. So you need to understand what it is not first before you can actually understand what it is. Keep in mind, I made a very detailed lesson about this system. It's called 9 Steps to Fully Understanding the CAGED System. I think if you look it up on YouTube, it's called the most comprehensive CAGED lesson ever, something like that. I'll definitely post a link to that below. That is a very detailed system that shows you exactly what you can do with the CAGED system and all of the potential. So I'm not going to get as deep into the exact steps of the CAGED system here in this lesson, so I may move a bit quick on certain parts. So if you're still kind of confused as to how to use this system and how to apply it, definitely check out that lesson. Link below. All right. So what the CAGED system is not. Let's talk about that first. You want to jam with some musicians. You got a keyboard player, singer, bass player, second guitar player. They're all playing music. The chord progression that they're all jamming along to is A minor to C major to G major to F major. Four chords, 4-chord chord progression. You just want to jam along with them. So the first thing you want to do is you want to identify the key. You've identified that the key is either A minor, which is the same key signature as C major. All right, same key signature. Maybe you did that by using your circle of fifths. You looked at your circle of fifths and you saw that all 4 of those chords fall right into this grouping of 6 right here: A minor, C major, G major, F major. They all fall right into the grouping of 6. Therefore, everything is 100% in that specific key. That's the key of C major / A minor. So you have determined the key. Cool. The key is A minor / C major. It's kind of up in the air as to what exactly, is it A minor? Is it C major? We don't know. There's 4 chords: A minor, C major, G major, F major. They're all part of the same key signature. The only way to really know for sure is Does the song end on a happy C major chord? Does the song end like this? A nice happy C major chord ending. All right, cool. All that music that you were listening to all along was in the key of C major. If the song happens to end on a A minor chord, a sad A minor chord, and that's the ending of the piece of music, and you walk away feeling like, man, I'm a little emotional after hearing that song, then it was the key of A minor. It makes no difference. It's A minor, it's C major. It's one of the 12 possible key signatures. All right, so you want to take this little pentatonic scale, this position number 1, and you want to learn how to play in key up and down the entire neck of the guitar. The 5 pentatonic positions is a great starting point. That's the pentatonic scale span across the entire neck of the guitar. That's the A minor pentatonic scale notes. That's the C major pentatonic scale notes. It's a relative major minor pair. That's your 5 pentatonic notes. That's only 5 of the 7 total notes of the key, though. Whatever key you're playing in, there's 7 notes. The pentatonic scale is 5 of those notes, but the key actually has 7 notes. So the pentatonic scale is missing 2 of the notes. Those 2 notes are B and F. So in order to get B and F into your playing, which is going to open up more melodic possibilities for you, you can add that B and F into each of the 5 pentatonic positions. Alright, so what we've done is we've mapped out the diatonic scale for the key that we're playing in up and down the entire neck of the guitar. 7 notes is the diatonic scale. If you just use 5 of those 7 notes and you just want to stick to the pentatonic scale, cool. If you want to add in those 2 additional notes, so you have a full 7-note palette of notes to play with, which is going to open up more melodic possibilities for you, cool. That's the diatonic scale versus the pentatonic scale. We're still here, though. We're still in the little leagues here. All right, we haven't entered into this realm yet where all the pros hang out at. We're still here. All we've done was we've visualized this diatonic scale across the neck of the guitar via the 5 patterns method, 5 positions, whatever you want to say, patterns, positions, it doesn't matter. That's all we've done. It's the diatonic scale via the 5 patterns method. The reason that this gets confused with the CAGED system is because, okay, so we're in the key of A minor or the key of C major, whatever you want to call it. Let's just call it the key of C major. So right here in pentatonic position number 1, you're going to find your C major chord found in what is known as the G shape. Here's your C major chord in the G shape. The notes of the C major chord are C, E, and G. So you have a C, E, G, C, E, G, C. C major chord in the G shape. If you come up to pentatonic position number 2, you're going to find the C major chord in the E shape. If you come up to pentatonic position number 3, you're going to find the C major chord in the D shape. Position 4, it's going to be in the C shape. Position 5 is going to be in the A shape. Then you're back at position 1. C major chord is again found in the G shape. So people will say that this is the G position. They will say that this is the E position. This is the D position. They're assigning CAGED names to each of these 5 positions, right? You can call this position 1. You can call this position 2, 3, 4, 5. You can call this, the red position, call this the green position, call this the blue position. I don't care what you call it, but if you've been calling it by CAGED names and then you think that that's it, that's the CAGED system, done, then that's the problem. Okay, that's only the beginning. You're in the little league still. It takes years and years of practice to be able to play this diatonic scale across this entire fretboard, but that's still the little leagues. All right, the CAGED system will get you into the big leagues. Let's now talk about that. All right, example number 1. We're just going to play this chord progression as a rhythm guitar player, but we don't want to play it here anymore. As I said, the chord progression is A minor to C major to G major to F major. All right, so that's cool, but you don't want to play here. You want to play that same chord progression, A minor, C major, G major, F major, and you want to play it somewhere else. You can play that chord progression anywhere on the entire neck of the guitar and you can find the nearest available shapes using the CAGED system. As I said, the CAGED system isn't the only way to do this, but this is what the CAGED system is for. All right. So let's say that I kind of just want to play the same chord progression, and I just want to play it like around like this area of the neck. All right. So we're not in the open position. I want to play it here. So right here, where's the nearest available A minor chord? You've probably seen this A minor chord shape before. So this is the E shape, but that's an A major chord, and we're trying to play an A minor chord. So you have to identify where the third is within this shape. Whatever shape you use, it's always going to consist of a root third and a fifth. So you just have to know where the third is and then drop that third by 1/2 step, resulting in an A minor chord. So boom, there's your A minor chord right there. A minor chord in the E shape. Now you can just reduce that and just play the high 4 strings if you want. That's completely fine. So you can just play the A minor chord like this. It's still the A minor chord in the E shape. We started out with an A major chord because that's what the CAGED system is. It's 5 major chord shapes. We've identified the third and we lowered the third by 1/2 step, resulting in a minor chord. We then just stuck to playing the high 4 strings. That's the chord that we're going to play for A minor. For the C major chord, we can use the C major chord in, say, the E shape. All right, so again, just like we did with the A minor chord, we use the E shape. We're going to do the same thing with the C major chord, E shape. But again, we're just going to play the high 4 strings. For the G major chord, we're going to play the G major chord in the D shape. So here's the G major chord in the D shape. The G major chord consists of the notes G, B, and D. So we're just going to play the high 3 strings here. You still have your G, B, and D. Here's G, here's B, here's D. That came from the D shape. So G major chord in the D shape. Why is that called a D shape? Well, do you recognize that shape? Looks like the D major chord that you play down here, right? All right, so that's the D shape. And then for the F major chord, let's play the F major chord in, say, the A shape. So F major chord in the A shape is like this. So we're just going to play the high 3 strings like that. All right, so that's example 1. We took our very basic chord progression that the whole rest of the band is playing, the bass player, the piano player, the guitar player, the singer singing in that key. Everyone's playing those 4 chords instead of just playing your basic open chords down here that you've been playing since, your first week that you started guitar. Now you decided to spice it up a little bit, and now you're playing the same chord progression, but you're playing it a little further up the neck. We use the CAGED system to find those shapes, all right? So that was one thing that the CAGED system is for. Let's look at some other examples. All right, so example number 2, let's say that we want to take these simple 4 chords, A minor, C major, G major, F major, and we want to make them a little bit, add some color to the chords, add a little bit of extra flavor to them, all right? We don't have to keep these as basic major and minor chords. We're going to use these same shapes that we just used, but let's say we want to play an A minor 9 chord, and then we'll keep the C major chord as it is. Then we'll play a G dominant 7 chord, and then we'll play an F major 7 chord, all right? So in order to know how to do that stuff, that's just general music theory. So in order to know what an A minor 9 chord is or a G dominant 7 chord or an F major 7 chord. The CAGED system is not going to give you those answers. General music theory, an understanding of general music theory is where that stuff is to be found at. And I have tons of lessons on all that stuff as well. But what the CAGED system does is it gives you a starting point for which you can, you take your basic starting shape and then you make manipulations to it in order to turn it into whatever chord you're trying to play. We already made a slight manipulation when we started out determining this A minor chord. In order to get an A minor chord, we had to start with an A major chord, which we did, and then we lowered the third by 1/2 step, resulting in an A minor chord. So we started out with a CAGED shape, and then we made a slight manipulation, and that's how we got a minor chord. You can make other manipulations. You can take these starting CAGED shapes, one of the 5 starting CAGED shapes, and you can make manipulations to it, resulting in these other chords. Let's do that now. So we're going to start off with this A minor chord that we already have been using right here. So in order to take this A chord and turn it into an A minor 9 chord, you need to have a basic understanding of general music theory. You need to know that a minor 9 chord consists of a root, a flat third, a fifth, a flat 7th, and a 9. Again, the CAGED system is not going to give you that information. A general understanding of music theory will. But what you can do is you take your basic starting shape. So we start with a major chord shape. You start with either C, A, G, E, or D shape. We're trying to play some sort of an A type of chord. So we're going to play an A chord in the E shape. This is called the E shape. This is called the E shape because it's the same shape as an E major chord, but you slide it up to here, it's the E shape. It's an A major chord in the E shape. So you identify your intervals. You have your 1, your 5, your 1, your 3, your 5, and your 1. So first things first, we want to make this into a minor chord. So we take our third, we lower that by 1/2 step. Boom, now we have an A minor chord. All right, so we have to get a flat 7 in there because that's what a minor 9 chord formula dictates that it is. So where can we get a flat 7? Well, as long as you know where your 1 is, you always have a flat 7 1 whole step lower than that. So we have a 1 right underneath our pinky here on the 7th fret of the D string. So you lift up your pinky, boom, that's where your flat 7 is. So now you're playing an A minor 7 chord. So we want to get that 9 in there. So what's a 9? A 9 is always going to be 1 whole step higher than the 1. So here's a 1, here's a 1, here's a 1. So let's add the 9 in up here. So your A minor 7, add in that 9 up there. All right, A minor 9 chord. Then we said we're just going to stick with the C major chord. So that's a C major chord in the E shape. Why is it in the E shape? Again, this is your E shape down here. That's an E major chord. So we're just taking that shape and we're sliding it up such that our root note is where the C is. So C major chord in the E shape. And then we want to get a G dominant 7 chord. So we've already started off. This is the G chord that we used in example number 1. We have our 1, we have our 3, we have our 5. So how do you turn that into a dominant 7 chord? Well, the dominant 7 chord has a flat 7 interval. So anywhere you have your 1 whole step lower than that is going to be where your flat 7 is found. So you just make a little manipulation to this shape. Boom. This is actually a rootless dominant 7 chord, but that's fine because the rules of chord construction dictate that you can always drop the root anytime you're playing any type of extended chord or whatever. You can always drop the root. The important intervals are always going to be the 3rd and the 7th. General music theory, we're just using the CAGED system just for our starting shape for which we make manipulations to. And then for the F major 7 chord, we used this shape. This is the F in the A shape, it's called. Why is it called the A shape? Well, because your A major chord down here is like that. So we're just taking that same shape and we're making it so that it's now an F chord. This is all explained in that 45-minute long CAGED lesson that I linked you to. That's why I'm going a little fast, as I said. But anyway, the F major chord is found right here in the A shape. So how do you get a major 7 chord? Understanding music theory is a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 7. A 7 is always going to be 1/2 step lower than the 1. So anywhere we have a 1, we just have to figure out how to get a note that's 1/2 step lower. So we have a 1 here, we have a 1 here. So that seems like a good place to add in our 7. So 1, 5, There's that 7. There's the 3. There's the 5. That's an F major 7 chord. All right, so any chord, diminished chords, augmented chords, 9th chords, 11th chords, 13th chords, sus2, sus4, it doesn't matter. Any single chord, it all starts, you pick one of these 5 shapes, C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, or D shape. Pick one of the 5 shapes, identify where your root, 3rd, and 5th are within the shape that you're using, and then having your understanding of music theory, which is a requirement to kind of take this stuff to the next level. You find your starting caged shape, which is what we're doing here. You apply the rules of music theory to make those manipulations. All right, so the cage system isn't going to give you all the rules of music theory. That's something you're going to kind of have to know. The cage system will give you the starting shape. So example number 1 and 2 was about, chords, which is entirely what the cage system is about. The cage system is about chords. It's not about scales. It never was about scales, ever. It's always been about chords, but so many people think it's about scales. It's about chords. It doesn't mean that you have to just use it for rhythm, though. The first 2 examples, we just took a chord progression as the rhythm guitar player, and we said, hey, I kind of want to spice my playing up a little bit, so I'm going to use cage shapes to kind of help me do that. The cage shapes are your starting points to play these other chords anywhere on the entire neck of the guitar. But it's also very, 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 very useful when it comes to soloing. It's called chord tone targeting. If you've been watching my videos for years, you're probably so sick of me of hearing that word, the chord tone targeting. It's so important. That's where the magic lies. Why does the Hotel California solo sound so good? Why does every single note that is played in that Hotel California solo sound so perfect? He's chord tone targeting the entire time. All right? Chord tone targeting is what takes your solos from the little leagues and it puts you into the major leagues. Chord tone targeting. The cage system is a great way to identify where the chord tones are, wherever you happen to be on the entire neck of the guitar. You're just visualizing something different. You're not, the scale's there, learning how to play in key. That's the layer 1 that's there. But as you're playing in your scales and stuff like that, you're playing your scale patterns, there's 7 notes. Some of those 7 notes are going to sound better than other notes. Some notes are going to sound great. Some notes are going to sound okay. Some notes are not going to sound that good. Some notes are just going to be like the perfect notes. You have 7 notes to choose from. So when you're soloing, you don't always want to be playing all 7 notes at all times. And that's the whole thing. That's why this is the little leagues. You're in the little leagues, you're just kind of guessing, Okay, you're using your ear. I get it. Everyone uses their ear. You're noodling around in your scale patterns. You're using your ear to guide you to the correct notes and stuff. Does that work 100% of the time? Are you always 100% able to, with control, hit the perfect note that you are aiming for? If the answer is no, then maybe chord tone targeting may be the thing that'll get you to the next level. So let's say that you're noodling around and you're soloing in this key, and it's time for you to take a solo. The rhythm section's still doing their thing. A minor, C major, G major, F major. That's looping over and over and over. You decide that you want to solo here. This is a cool spot that you want to solo. You just like the spot of the guitar. So you can sit here and noodle around in pentatonic position number 4. You can add in your 2 diatonic notes, and you can sit here and do this all day. You could do that all day long. You can noodle around on that scale all day long. It's going to work. You're playing in key. The rhythm section that you're soloing along with, it's going to work. You're playing in key. But some notes are going to sound better than others. All right, that's the chord tones. For the A minor chord, Where are the chord tones located? In this little spot that we're playing. The chord tones are all over for the A minor chord. A, C, and E. Those are the chord tones of an A minor chord. Those are going to be the notes that sound perfect over the A minor chord in the rhythm section. You have your scale pattern. You have your little spot you're playing in. Some notes are going to sound better than others. The A, the C, and the E are going to be those notes over the A minor chord. How do you find those notes here? Well, we start out by identifying, if we're using the CAGED system, we start out by identifying which shape is available to us. So we have an A in the A shape available to us. So as you're soloing over the A minor chord, that's going to be a good note. 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 All right, so all those are going to be your golden notes within the scale pattern. The magical notes within the scale pattern. You can use any of them. You don't always have to land on chord tones. Over the A minor chord, your ear may guide you to another note that is not an A, C, or an E. But more often than not, your ear is going to guide you to the chord tones. The chord tones are the notes that just connect with the underlying chord. All right. If you want to sustain on notes, chord tones. If you want to, as the chord change occurs, moves from chord 1 to chord 2, you want to time your phrases such that you're landing on a chord tone right at the moment that the chord changes. That's what chord tone targeting is all about. The thing about this is it gets a bit complicated because the chords are changing. What that means is as the chords are changing, so are the chord tones. The scale's not changing. The scale's remaining constant. Your scale pattern, your key scale, your 7-note diatonic scale, that is remaining constant. That's the thing that everyone's fixated on. Not everyone, but a lot of people are fixated on. Everyone's just focused on playing in key, playing the scale. The magic is in the chords. Over the A minor chord, we have our notes of focus, the A, C, and E. Those are going to be the best sounding notes in that specific instance. But then when the chord changes to a C major chord. That's the next chord in the progression. Your scale pattern still remains the same. So the scale pattern still remains the same, but your notes of focus within the scale pattern, because we're only playing right here for this little example here, are going to change. Over the C major chord, the notes that are going to sound the best are going to be the chord tones of the C major chord, which are C, E, and G. So how do you find your C's, E's, and G's? Well, you can use the CAGED system to do that. Here's a C major chord found in the C shape right here. Here's a C, here's an E, G, C, E. All right, so those are the chord tones. That's the C major chord in the C shape. That doesn't mean that you have to play this full chord like this and strum it like that. It's not an easy chord to play. What it does mean is that as the C major chord's playing in the rhythm section and you're noodling in the scale pattern, that's going to be a good note to land on. This is also going to be a good note to land on. This is going to be a good note to land on. C, E, and G. This is a good note to land on. This is a good note to land on. Chord tones. When the chord switches to a G major chord, again, the chord tones change. The scale remains constant. The scale pattern that you're using remains constant. The chord tones of the G major chord are the notes G, B, and D. So right there within this pattern, you have a G, B, D, G, B, D, G. That's actually the G major chord in what is known as the G shape. So again, scale pattern stays constant. But over the G major chord, chord tones of the G major chord. And then finally we have the F major chord. Again, the scale pattern remains exactly the same. That stays consistent the entire time because that is the key scale. That is layer 1. But the notes of focus within the scale are now going to be the notes F, A, and C. So those are going to be your notes of focus within this scale pattern right here over the F major chord. The CAGED system is about chords. The CAGED system is not about scales. The CAGED system is not about scale positions. This CAGED system is not the 5 patterns method or the 5 patterns approach to visualizing the diatonic scale. The magic is in the chords. That is what the CAGED system is for. Check out my super in-depth CAGED lesson that I said that I linked you to below. That's super in-depth. Check it out. I have lots of other lessons on this topic. Check them out. Caged is about chords. It is not about scale patterns.